Welcome to Stifel's Sightlines podcast, focusing each week on a topic or two important to investors.
Hey, greetings and welcome to the Sightlines podcast. This is Michael O'Keefe, Stifel's Chief Investment Officer. I want to get into the concept of the transfer of wealth to, quote unquote, the next generation. You know, the numbers are in the neighborhood of up to $90 trillion in wealth that will be passing on from baby boomers to millennials, or is passing on in that direction. And, you know, what that does, of course, there's a couple things. One, we can look at it through the lens of an investor. And like when we look at companies, for example, how do we sort of take into account these shifts? And in our case, you know, we have a long-term investment theme report that we update regularly where we kind of frame up, hey, here's some ways to think about megatrends in the future. And included in that, we have 5 megatrends. And the two that really relate to this the most are shifting demographics. So the idea that, you know, it's almost like the new next generation is coming into the economy. They're gaining control of the wealth, all that kind of thing, the spending, the investing. And then there's also related to that, the new consumer, the idea that as that next generation comes along, for example, what they want to consume, how they want to consume, what they focus on, that changes. And so, you know, it's almost like, whereas in the past people might have wanted to sit and watch television, maybe these days people want to go out and have experiences. That would be a simple sort of example of what we're talking about. But there are all kinds of things. Anyway, so we definitely look at this topic through the lens of an investor and how to take advantage of it. But we also recognize that we want to serve our clients as they move from generation to generation. So we've sort of captured this concept at Stifel of supporting the next-gen investor. And so there are a few things I would say. One, we've captured some good guidance in what we call the NextGen Investor Handbook. We get into things like philanthropy and, of course, saving and investing, and maybe passing the values of a family from one generation to the next, and simple things like if you're getting your first job, what to think about, all that kind of stuff. And so it's a fairly lengthy document. I think we're going to end up producing some videos to go with it. But it's been extremely successful, what's a better word? Popular. It's been extremely popular. So our financial advisors like it. They're passing it on to their clients. It's sort of a tool for the current generation to engage the next generation and kind of get them focused on some of the responsibilities they're going to be taking on. And all of that's super important. We also, by the way, have launched a webinar series. And so just keep an eye out for that. We'll be doing webinars basically targeted to the next-gen investor. In any event, another thing that we do, which is more of an information and trend gathering exercise, is, of course, like many firms, we're blessed to have summer interns, right? We bring in a bunch of folks for a number of weeks in the summer. That's interesting because the offices are always pretty full, but it just gets to be bustling in the summertime as we have this influx of essentially college students. And so we have our 2025 interns in these days. And I don't know, it's like 19 or 20 offices across the country, but certainly our main headquarters are sort of anchor footprint in New York. We've got a big group. And so one of the things and then really around both all the divisions, you know, the institutional division, the wealth division. So we have the opportunity to survey the interns and ask them a bunch of questions. And then, you know, essentially we use this feedback in a way to kind of inform what we're focused on. I mean, another example is we had them, you know, giving us suggestions on some of the videos I mentioned, like, hey, we're going to produce some videos. Let's get some input from folks. So it's all really kind of fun, but also kind of serious. In any event, you know, when we look at this sort of current class of interns, it's 104 colleges represented, 20 languages spoken. And so it's a nice sort of diverse group of folks. And then, so to get into it, you know, one of the things we do when we're looking at these trends is how are values similar to the last generation. So as a few examples, almost a third want to work as long as they can, but there's about a little under half, 46%, that aim to retire between 55 and 65. But both of those are kind of traditional paths of employment these days. 99% want to purchase a home and get married, with 93% expecting and hoping to raise children. Now back to the experience dimension. They value quote unquote human experience over just acquiring goods. So when they are shopping, they prefer to be in store for things like apparel, footwear, electronics. And then when you say the word luxury, they associate more the concept of unique experiences compared to the idea of designer brands. So when you say, hey, what do you associate with the word luxury? 46% say they think of unique experiences, while only 10% jump to designer brands. Now, on that note, the idea of brands, they're loyal. So about half of them have Netflix as a streaming service. 70% listen to Spotify, kind of the winner, it seems, of that service, if you will. 40%, this is down a little bit, I think, from last year, prefer Nike athletic footwear. Now, we also asked them about their worries about the future. And basically, and maybe this is a little influenced by the current environment, 41% list geopolitical risks as their top worry. 31%, the next highest, is worry about AI, automation, and related cyber security threats. Now, we also asked them about sort of the hopes and dreams of the future, like what do you look at and see? Maybe we floated some concepts, and they do expect to see a lot of AI agents developed. They do expect an expansion of the nuclear power base, so more nuclear power. And I think they're all expecting a practical kind of in-production quantum computer. We've talked about things we think are happening: flying cars, digital twins, and bionic humans. And basically, we're skeptical about that. So a little bit cautious about some of those more, advanced moves in terms of technology. But then finally, when it comes to artificial intelligence, 91%, this is not surprising, explain that they would feel uncomfortable with an AI bot as their primary care doctor. So, long way to go before AI takes on the role of primary care. But 90% use AI in everyday life, and 57% would prefer a robot as a waiter in a restaurant. So again, AI is here. Interns have signaled that. There's some worries about it. There's some caution about going too far when it comes to, for example, medical care. But all good information, right? And just to kind of reiterate how we close the loop, this is, a portion of what we take in as we develop those long-term themes. So anyway, that's what I wanted to get into in this episode, kind of three things. Long-term themes are influenced by generational shifts. Number one, we're here to serve NextGen investors with things like the Investor's Handbook, NextGen Investor's Handbook, and a series of webinars and some other videos we're going to produce. And other things. Obviously, we have a big body of work. And then finally, the intern survey was once again very informative and helpful to us as we move forward with all of this effort. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we will, as usual, catch you on the next one. Thanks so much.
Thanks again for listening to Stifel's Sightlines. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to automatically receive each week's podcast in your feed.